And what a great place to do it here in CES. So the feeling that we see from our clients, the feeling that we have ourselves at Deloitte, the pace of change in technology has never been faster. The amount of change happening, the volume, the magnitude of it has never been greater. And the real action becomes, how do we translate that potential into the investments that we should be making to not just do the things we've always done a little bit differently, but how do we also harness it to disrupt the way we work, how we think about customer experience, how do we think about the products we offer in the market, even the markets that we participate in, our industries, our business models. So I believe in dialectics, two things that can seem like they're contradictory statements, but they're both actually true. So the first one is what I just said. The pace of change has never been higher. The amount of change is staggering. There's 100,000 square feet of space here in Vegas that you'll see all kinds of advances. And we firmly believe that the future is more knowable than it feels, and that the change that we're seeing in technology, though impressive and incredible, it's following a more established path than maybe it feels like at first blush. So this is something we use. It's called our macro tech forces, and we've been doing it for a long time. So we have 16 years of tech trends research that was just published, and been doing for decades, following all the advances in technology, how it applies to business across industries, across government. What I love about this is it tries to look at the things on the top, which from a tech lens are pretty familiar. What's the advances in computation? What are the advances in information? What are the advances in interaction? So anyone that's a technologist would recognize that as the architecture stack that's been in place since the beginning of computer science. And that's a good thing, because we can say with confidence, we're going to continue to see investments and advances, but they're going to follow that track. And if you look on the top, I'm an engineer, my wife's an English major. I love the idea that the end game are the words on top that might feel poetic, but there's power in the idea that computation is moving toward abundance. Information is moving toward intelligence. Interaction is moving toward simplicity. There's a great quote, people think it's Steve Jobs, it's actually Da Vinci, the ultimate form of sophistication is simplicity. And so how do we think about all the new ways we're interacting with our technology and hopefully make it more natural and simple? And then the things on the bottom are the things that don't get a ton of attention, that actually are just as important, especially if you want to move from proofs of concepts and prototypes and demos to solutions that can change the world and drive transformative impact. And they're the ones that when I'm with CIOs and CTOs with our clients, there's almost a hallelujah, amen. Holly, I won't ask you for that from the stage, but we were talking back before, this idea that we've got to focus on the business of technology. How do we invest within our IT organizations? How does that extend into the business and into the mission if you're a government agency? And how do we have to bring technology into the act of deploying technology, which is very different than it's ever been before? How do we think about partnering differently? How do we think about our investment portfolio and the investments in Horizons Next, and not just being saddled with all the things we already are doing today? Cyber, trust, security, privacy, regulatory compliance, ethics, morality. Those can't be things we think about at the end. They have to be baked into our investment thesis, just because we can, should we, and what does it mean? And then we embed, how do we do things better in how we deliver technology inside. And then just core modernization. We're not starting from scratch. Technology investment that aren't just going to go away, and there's a ton of value that needs to be unlocked. So how do we invest to make that real? So I love this idea of all of those, there's tech happening in all of them, and this is just a visual to show our research over the years. It lights up each one of those areas in different ways over a decade plus. The theme of the report this year is AI everywhere. That's not us just taking a flyer and saying, of course, AI is dominating every conversation. The point of it is, just like there's not going to be a lot of booths at CES that have a big banner to say, now with electricity. AI is embedded in almost everything that we'll see at CES. It's actually embedded in advances across all the trends we're going to talk about, which is exceptionally important, because it's shifting the mindset of AI as something different in its own on the side. Very few companies can say AI is their product. AI is a feature. How do we unlock it, and unlock it with an eye to scale? So we're going to do speed dating, 6 trends featured in the report. There'll be a QR code at the end. You can download it. Ton of client examples. Some of the voices on stage featured heavily in it. But we're going to look through each one just a beat, and then we'll get into a deeper conversation and make it real. So the interaction macro force, spatial computing as the trend that we're highlighting, and the idea that the physical and the digital worlds need to come together in a way that hasn't been possible before. And some of that's going to be unlocking new digital experiences. So VR, XR, MR, AR is an important piece of it. But it's not just that. It's also enterprise simulation. And it's the models that fuel physical robotics. And how do we think about the next wave of technology solutions that bring information technology, IT, and operational technology, OT, together? And by the way, embedded in PT, product technology, physical products in the world, how do all those three have to come together? And a really interesting piece of this is the infrastructure to do it has been lacking. Digital assets, how do we manage them? How do we deploy them? New interaction patterns. The models we need to train these advanced systems, all of that is a part of the trend about spatial computing. And I'm supposed to be clicking twice, so sorry we didn't get this elegant build. We'll get it next time for the second one. Okay, so the second, information. Of course, there's great advances happening within AI. So in its own trend chapter, even though it's embedded in everyone else, we did a highlight on what's new, what's happening, what matters in AI, and a couple of the big themes. The multimodal one, of course, important. And how do we think about not just more human senses? So far it's been about media types, text and video and audio, but we're saying that's important, and we're adding things that are beyond human capabilities into the systems. So data, machine.
Yeah, this is very important. I think this is most important thing that, out of 6. What's next for AI? Because we need to think about a lot of stuff right here.
Machine vision that can see frequencies that we can't, olfactory interfaces, smell molecules is a piece of the model.
Because that question can be anything. Maybe you will answer because you thought that what's next for AI means what's the next generation for AI. So you're gonna talk about some visions that what we can develop, and some other strategies or whatever that is, and you're going to talk about that. But in the other hand, maybe some people will say, oh, what's next for AI means something that is for the AI, not for us, not for humans. It's just for AI itself, or AI for human. So all of those questions and questioning and answering is actually advances our technology,
which is coming. So there's a whole piece of multi-model, including small models, edge deployed models, getting a lot of attention. And then how do we think about the investments needed to make that real to scale, which brings us all back to data, first, second, third party. How do we think about managing it, deploying it, unlocking it, and building models embedded in process, embedded in product, and not a standalone. Hardware's eating the world. Andreessen, famous quote, 12, 15 years ago, software's eating the world. We're at this interesting point where hardware matters again. And a lot of folks in the room that work in hardware industries might scoff at that and say, of course it's always mattered. It was not a part of the conversation that I had with clients a lot in the last decade, at least compared to all the discussion about digital and data and information. It matters a lot again now. So from the advanced chipsets powering AI to...
And the hardware requires a lot of work, such as because it's actually you're physically making something else, AI chips or those technologies, and so it's very hard. You need to think about a lot of factors, such as sizes and how a performances and a longevity and a responsibility, all of those stuff. There's so many. I can't tell everything, but
how do we get embedded within edge systems? So the idea that we have not just large models running in the cloud, we have small models running on the edge. And then this idea of how do we think about the next generation of hardware that we need to figure out how to unlock. And one of those pieces is quantum. We'll hit again in the cyber chapter. So I love this emphasis. Cloud brought us to a point where we thought that hardware was just a commodity and it was something we didn't have to think much about. More and more CEO conversations about the investments needed to be made in hardware to fuel the tech trajectory that we know is coming in the next decade. Okay, the bottom of the ledger. So the three forces that don't get a ton of attention when we're talking about emerging tech. IT amplified. This is 100% about how do we embed advanced automation and intelligence in the way we deploy technology. So engineering is a capability. We're seeing a ton of investment in engineering experience, the tools our engineers need to use to unlock value, but also all the other stuff that we just typically haven't spent enough time and attention on. So the core operations, how does that get a plus with technology and automation? And then even into the things that may be a little bit softer, but how do we think about training and upskilling? Well, there's a huge piece of tech to do that in a different way than we ever did before. Hopefully gone are the days of 40-hour certification classes that are very passive and boring. Hey, how do we embed learning in the moment, make it much more immersive and impactful? Cyber and trust, the new math. So quantum and all.
Got one in.
Thank you.
So
On stage.
start by replicas of physical experiences that they can do virtually. And on the other end, providing just-in-time information to folks that need to potentially repair an asset on the physical asset and everything in between. Right? Companies are using this to transform the way they train, the way they build their facilities, the way they sell their products, the way they advertise. It's really transformative in that regard.
And then in the operations as well, like what industries are we seeing traction, just to make it real on, hey, how could this apply maybe to folks in the audience?
So any industry that builds things is where we're seeing a ton of traction, right? Like the overall manufacturing sector, automotive. These are big sectors worth, worth trillions of dollars.
Well, I don't want to be offensive, but why does his nose looks like Minecraft villager?
In transformation, actually, according to Jensen's quote yesterday.
Yeah.
There's a ton of opportunity to optimize how these industries leverage these types of technologies to change the way they operate and improve the way they operate to hit all the goals that you summarized.
Okay. So Deb, the promise of, let's just say spatial.
Operate in virtual environments that we wouldn't have if we were sitting together, being together. But I think it's actually the next step that it allows us to get. What are the insights that we wouldn't otherwise have? So think of it if you're training virtual surgeons. So yes, operational efficiencies around how to train people, but what about stress? What happens when surgeons are stressed in operating rooms? Well, there's today to actually test that. You don't want to test that when they're actually doing surgery.
Are you stressed?
Not sure about you, but that's
Are you stressed?
how I want to test that out.
Yeah.
But think about that on the manufacturing line. Think about that when you have people working 24/7
Bro got the point.
and they work 3 days on, 3 days off. The actual ability to take insights and apply those insights to actually looking at not only how to create efficiency, but to create actual stress point risk optimization.
But why just keep mentioning about the stress? I'm getting stressed right now because of this topic.
Yeah, I love and both of you hit on, there's the passive, I don't mean in a negative way. How do we simulate, how do we
Bro, I don't understand. All of people sometimes have some stroke, just.
If we are going to use AI as a tool, but AI is not the answer to everything, how are we going to run an operating model that makes sense so that the customer, any of you from Toyota, unfortunately, are going to hear my old adage, which is customers do not care how we're organized. Right? They don't care. They don't care what's front end and what's back end and they want their experience. And honestly, our team members sometimes fall into where we forget about that with our team members. That's where we've got to get to with all of this work around how we're embedding AI, how we're running, we talked about backstage, the business of IT. The business of IT has to change. And what that means is we can have brilliant technical folks, we can have brilliant tools, we can have brilliant data platforms, but if we don't have an operating model where we're running IT as a business, because IT is the business, how do we then effectively do what I just said, which is make sure their customers are at the focus, they're getting what they need, and our team members are able to function in a better way every single day. So that's what we're working on at TM&A with the help of many folks like Deloitte and many other AWS and Adobe, thank you all. So I think that's where we have to change the narrative. AI is here to stay. It will become ubiquitous in all of our processes, but we still need the right humans to make the right decisions.
Okay, right human. This sounds okay.
And Bill, maybe to chime in just
Yeah, sure.
one sec. The interesting thing, what you said, two things. What you said, one, the adage of, the org, we call it don't ship our org chart. So it's a very similar adage, right? I think as a part. But just on the AI thing, where I love what you hit on. We meet with companies every day, similar to you, right, and talk about, hey, where are you? There's still so much trepidation, honestly, in the market. Right. And I would say we're still largely in the phase of experimentation, right? Where they're like, hey, I want to use this, but there's so much trepidation around what data am I using? What do you do with my data?
The reason why we need to watch all of those videos, especially, I mean, I'm not sure it's considered as a podcast, but it's you need to watch those videos it's because it's not only for trending, follow the trends. It's also because AI is really popping off these days, right? Because everything will change with AIs,
Hey, you're creating all this content. How do I make sure it's on brand? How do I have the right compliance? So I know what world you're
And even if you don't admit it that nothing's gonna change and it's gonna go like this. If you see on the media, it's already full of AIs. Even if you go to Amazon, it's AI powered recommendations or some whatever.
living in, and I just think that's a little bit of the reality.
And how are you gonna tell that the YouTube algorithm is not an AI?
Of where we are.
No, and it's such a great point. And I think CES is a great embodiment of, I also hear a lot of, we know we need to do something, but we're afraid if we invest now, the next shiny object is going to come and invalidate what we just did.
I think you can do around edge
data, and then what can you do with it? I mean, how to data, going
incredible data around.
By the way, we have, and many of you in the audience quickly, a couple of the people in my story. I've actually stopped a little bit even talking about transformation, because what I worry about when we use those words is that if you talk about transformation, people think it's going to end. It's not going to end. It's just how the business is going to change what we deliver, how we deliver it, how customers view our services. So I'm now shifting that mindset and trying to shift that conversation, because I do think it's a very different, know that change is constant. There is no end. If you end, you become obsolete, and that's where we have to get to.
And one of my favorite clients ever used to say, we need a lot less fingers and a lot more thumbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a part of that change is constant. And no board member, no C-suite would say, I don't care about risk. That's someone else's job.
Right.
I don't care about the finances of the organization. That's someone else's job.
Right.
We're at that point with technology.
Right. Right.
And your point that there's no back and front office, that's a silly distinction. I was in a board 2 months ago, and I asked who would represent themselves from the business or technology, and someone got very angry and saying, what an ill-founded question. and I loved it, because that was not the case. All right.
There was an interesting nugget out of the keynote last night, the NVIDIA keynote last night, a bit relevant to the topic you're discussing, Holly, which is that IT is going to look very different, right, in this future, where they become more like HR representatives, right, finding the right balance between agents and
supporting, enabling, coordinating, orchestrating versus the brunt of. And I know this is a mixed room of folks in enterprise technology and private sector and entrepreneurs. I think there's something to be taken away from all of you on that evolution and how do you find market, especially with vertical. If you're in a startup or founder mode, the more verticalization, the better to tackle specific problems in that vein. All right, shift gears on quantum.
Okay.
Quantum's having a little bit of a moment right now, Deb.
Love it.
Right. UN said this 2025 is the year of quantum.
Year of quantum.
Quantum mania was Ant-Man next year. I don't know if that
Our world pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I will not do clock change. What happened? If you think about what your data is, back to the notion of data, a lot of people may know where their crown jewels are, what are their important systems, what are the things that are very near and dear to them. The question that they don't know is how long do they need to be secure? And so that is the one thing I tell every executive, what do they need to understand? Do you need that data to be secure for 1 day, 1 year, or 100 years? Yeah. That is the most important thing that you can understand right now about your crown jewels, because what criminals are doing today, and we know this for a fact, is that they're stealing data today in the hopes that whenever quantum actually comes around, it will be unencrypted tomorrow, in a month, in a year. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like the grab bag. I don't know how many of you went to the store and bought the grab bag for $5 not knowing what you were going to.
Bro, even in gaming, there's so many data collectors, hackers, I'm not talking about the game cheaters. I'm talking about the actual hackers that steals your data they deserve death. If they died, I don't care. Just behind the bars, I don't care.
And get in that bag, it could have been nothing, it could have been coal, or it could have been gold. Cyber criminals are doing that. They're hoping for the gold. And so if you don't know if your data can be stored for a day, a month, or a year, that's where your biggest weakness is. And most of our clients, most of our customers don't know how long that they need their data to be encrypted. And so if I were to tell anybody to do anything right now, it's just to make sure you not only know what your crown jewels are, but how long do you need them hardened.
I love it. I'd add one, I love it. The other thing I'd add is to protect our systems in the next 1 to 10 years, the ball in the places that matter.
And since AI technology is evolving at a pace that we would never have expected, quantum will be here sooner than we expect it to be. So again, it is not a matter of if, it is simply a matter of when. And so waiting for that to happen is candidly just a fool's errand, to be honest with you.
Okay, we're going to switch off of quantum for a beat. But my last, our quantum leader, Deloitte's quantum leader, likes to say, the thing we have to figure out is, okay, we've got 2 minutes. I want to go down the line. One thing that you're looking forward to, either in the show for the next 2 years at CES or more broadly coming to 25. Let's anchor it on trends, or I'd have to say Notre Dame winning the championship, which would be very pandering. I'm gonna go Irish. Deb, you want to start?
Oh my gosh. I actually am a huge fan of the creativity and curiosity. So what I'm looking forward to is literally humanity and all the curiosity that we're going to be able to be enabled by. And we will obviously use AI for that, but it's creativity and curiosity.
Love it. Okay.
I'm looking forward to 2 things. One is physical AI, right? The ability to intimately understand the way we function with our world. And also what we're seeing happen with new form factors of wearables that I think are actually going to dawn, that people are going to dawn. The reason I'm excited about these is because for the first time, I think we'll have the ingredients for the killer app for spatial computing, right? I think we've been kind of looking for that. People have been digging here and there, but I think it's with these ingredients that we're going to see something pretty miraculous happen.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was my comment earlier was I think we're still largely in experimental mode. I think this year, I think there's multiple phrases for it, toy to tool, playground to production, I don't know.
And members and consumers to use tools and have those tools run for those folks in a seamless way. Talent, they're excited about for.
You can see that from Deloitte's Tech Trends report, QR code on the page, download it and check it out. Love feedback.
All right, we're done with this.
No end of ways to be informed or entertained while you're here at CES or Vegas, and maybe slightly different ways to be informed or entertained
busy
depending
as
on which
hell.
one you're optimizing for. But nonetheless, I am grateful for you spending your morning with us today. So as noted, my name is Jonathan Stringfield. I oversee revenue and business planning for Microsoft Advertising, and I'm a relatively newer member of the team. So as part of that, I've been really trying to figure out what's the pithy way that I can kind of explain to folks what it means that we do at Microsoft Advertising. And I think some of the complexity comes from the fact that when we think about Microsoft as a company, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But fundamentally, if we think about it at its core, Microsoft is a platform company. Like, this is something that's been the case since nearly day one. It's very core to the mission. Like, one of the things that we say at Microsoft is that we believe in platforms that empower our consumers and our partners to achieve more. So what we do at Microsoft Advertising, and what's very key to my role there, is working with the multitude of platforms across the Microsoft ecosystem on their revenue strategies and finding ways that we can improve them or improve their revenue strategies through advertising and partnership. So this includes a multitude of enduring properties that have been around almost as long as the digital age has existed, and certainly almost as long as the PC age has existed, across a number of different surfaces, ranging from things like content to browsers to emails to search to social, and things now, as one of our newest additions, generative AI through Copilot. So we're here at CES. If you've been walking around a little bit, there's a good chance you will hear about AI at some point.
I just got
that is
goosebumps.
kind of a thing that we were talking about here. And I would wager, if you walk out into that hallway,
I don't
close your
use
eyes, spin
any
around,
of them.
walk in a random direction,
Oh
you
my
will run
God,
into a
bro, I
conversation
don't
about
use
AI.
any of them.
And this is exciting. We at Microsoft are very excited about the potential of AI. But there is another series of platforms that, in my view, I find just as exciting and just as promising in terms of the opportunities that it affords, not just for consumers, but also our partners, and that's in gaming. So to be clear and be very transparent, I am super
Minecraft,
biased,
let's go,
right?
let's go,
when
bro.
I joined Microsoft, it came via the Activision Blizzard
Oh, it's
acquisition
because
that
of
happened in
Microsoft,
October
yeah.
of last year.
Sure.
For those of you who are not familiar with Activision Blizzard, it's one of the largest game publishers of the Western Hemisphere, behind titles such as World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, and
Sea
Candy
of
Crush.
Thieves.
And as part of that acquisition, 2 important things happen. One of which is that King, one of the largest mobile developers in the world, joined the Microsoft portfolio. And that's significant for a lot of reasons that I'll return to momentarily. Second, with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft became the largest game publisher in the world ex-China. So a multitude of game publishers publishing some of the longest standing franchises in gaming, some at least 13 individual $1 billion plus gaming franchises. So really core in terms of the legacy and the foundation of gaming as a form of entertainment. But when we think about gaming at Microsoft, it isn't just all about our wonderful studios, it is also, true to form at Microsoft, about a platform. And our platform for gaming is called Xbox. So for those of you that are familiar with Xbox, you probably largely know it as the game console, right? This nice little piece of consumer electronics, piece of plastic you put into your TV stand, and you access all sorts of cool content from it. And that's, it's an important part of the ecosystem. Millions of players engage with our games in this way. And again, kind of a core part of the player experience across the Xbox ecosystem. But to us, Xbox is also a lot more. When we think about Xbox, it's not just a console. Xbox is also the mechanism through which game players can access gaming content through essentially any screen that can be connected to the consumer internet by merit of cloud gaming. When we think about Xbox, it also includes things like one of the largest subscription-based libraries of games content in Game Pass. In short, when we think about Xbox, it's not just a console, it is a way for game players all across the world to be able to access the games they want, to play when they want, where they want, how they want, and with the people they want. And in line with this, when we think about the advertising solutions around it, we wanted to make sure that we were channeling the power that this platform has in a way that also leverages the strengths that are across Microsoft in totality. So this kind of breaks down to three parts. The first being, of course, all of that wonderful content from Xbox as a studio, or as a game studio, as a platform, but then undergirded by the billions of consumers that access Microsoft services across various parts of their digital journey. The foundation of which is billions of permissioned data points, the immense Windows and Xbox ecosystems, and now increasingly leaning into market-leading AI capabilities. The summation of it is that between Xbox as a platform and our investment in gaming, and our investment on the Microsoft advertising side to make sure that we are supporting it as thoroughly and as comprehensively as we can, it kind of brings up at least three potential questions, right? One of which is, what is the opportunity for advertisers and why is that important? And I want to talk a little bit about that. The second is, why is this opportunity important for us at Microsoft? And I want to address that as well. And then the third piece is how this actually works in practice. And for that, I'm going to invite my colleague on stage momentarily to kind of walk through how this comes to life in the real world. So for the first piece, what is the opportunity for advertisers? So I think it's January 8th. I do not think it is too late for me to wish everyone a Happy New Year while we're here. But as part of that, I can make like a joke that like, oh, I'm still kind of living in 2024 and I forget what day it is and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to make that joke. What I will, however, do is use that as an excuse for the fact that my slides are outdated, right? So new year, new me, maybe new you, old data. But the issue is that the overall relationships and scale that we're talking about are pretty much the same. So bear with me on that one. So when we talk about the scale of the audience in gaming, roughly what you're going to hear is somewhere between 3.4 or 3.6 billion.
Wait,
okay,
what?
So what this
Global gaming industry revenue and global box office revenue is very different. Holy shit. But look at this graph.
of humans on the planet play video games. I estimate somewhere on the horizon of 3 to 5 years, this will get closer or surpass 50%. So again, to be clear, not folks in the digital ecosystem, not folks in the United States of America, humans on planet Earth, over 40% now.
Oh, not United States yet. That's the most important thing. If you are talking about United States, it's wrong data.
Soon in the future, over 50% play video games. So that's our baseline when we think about the scale of the opportunity. This is reflected in terms of how this has grown as an industry. So that graph on the left shows the global gaming industry.
Okay, we got it. And gaming has universal appeal. 48% of players identify as female. What do you mean identify as female? If you're female, just you're female. 76% of players are 18 plus years old. 21 is the average number of years playing video games.
Men play video games, but they do not necessarily reflect the average game player at this point. Being more of young is an important pile. That's some degree of frustration.
Base US gamers 18 plus. I knew it. Total console 41%, mobile 79%, PC 43%. Base is US gamers. Bro, please stop bring all of those like United States gamers only. Like we have like so many people out there. Console, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, a PC, Steam, Epic Games. What is this? Luna, GeForce Now, Arcade, King. King is a company that made the Candy Crush Saga, no? She came again? Okay.
The head of gaming business success strategy at Activision Blizzard. Now, Jonathan talked a lot about kind of the gaming ecosystem and of the game eco strategy.
And I can think of
How we
advertising for today's gaming audiences. Do not like forced or interruptive ad experiences. Are more likely to purchase from brands advertising in their favorite game. Skipping after a certain duration. Oh, true. I don't want to see any ads though, but skipping after a certain duration is good. Like 15 seconds. After 15 seconds, you can just skip this ad. But the good one I saw on YouTube was after 5 seconds, you can go back to watch video. Prefer ads in game to be reward based. Oh, it's like people are just going crazy. If you can't avoid the advertisement, then just enjoy it, right? Players want experiences that are fun. Thought the playable experience was fun. Oh yeah, there's some kind of some ads that you can actually play the game inside. 78% would interact with the playable again if there was an in-game reward. Nah, that's not me. What do you mean playing that game again? Nah, it's just freaking ad. I want to say I'm on the 1%, which is bring that game to real life and not only stay on ads. Just make that game in as a real game and they publish in a store. Okay. 80% immersion predicts customer action and memory with 80% accuracy.
And of course, we want people to be feeling good. We want them to be in a positive mindset. And so that's what immersion is, bringing those two kind of ideas together. No surprise.
Okay. Gaming enjoyment drives immersion.
That happen in those.
I don't like this third one. This one is totally just watching the whole ad. I don't like that.
And all from this campaign.
What? Prada and Candy Crush. Oh my, bro, what the heck? Really? Key implications.
Read and see a little bit more of the research that Jonathan.
All right.
I'm Blake Robbins from Hidden Capital, and this is Dan, the CEO of Twitch. And prior to Twitch, he had held a bunch of different roles at Nextdoor, Google, NASA, and yeah, I'm really excited to be doing this with you.
Well, Blake, thanks for joining me. Why don't we just jump right into it, huh?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, you and I talked quite a bit before this, and we've jammed quite a lot on community, which is obviously the main topic of this overall talk. I think it'd just be helpful to talk about when you hear community, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to a talk that someone gave. It was quite good about all the fancy schmancy connected home stuff that's coming out. And I was talking to them, and they talked about, how, time seems to be our biggest challenge, and we need to use our time better. And I said, I don't think that's what it is. As human beings, we yearn for connection to other human beings. That is at the foundation of what it means to be a human being as we evolved.
All right.
Time wasn't our most valuable resource when we were evolving. Other people were. And I always find it interesting because so often when people talk about human needs and all that, they talk about all these other things. But the foundation of so much of what we do is actually connection with other human beings. One of the books I love is a book by Susan Pinker. And I'm blanking on the name. Susan Pinker, it was, I'm blanking on the name now. So I'll just tell you what the main point was. That face-to-face interaction with other people is one of the biggest factors in longevity. And in fact, it was of equivalent importance as not smoking is negatively.
Oh, wow.
So suppose you're a 50-year-old person and all your friends smoke, and you have to choose, do you stop smoking, but then not hang out with all your friends because it's tough for you to hang out with them while they're smoking, or do you keep smoking? Which one will you live longer? And it's a toss-up.
Wow. I guess on that note, obviously you just stressed face-to-face as being the best.
Wait, what?
How do you think of technology maybe playing a role in that or not?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I talk about face-to-face, and I often use the term synchronous, meaning that we experience each other face-to-face and at the same time. And of course, our online interaction is often
what's
asynchronous.
the connection between
You do
smoking
something,
and
I see
a
something,
live
which
stream?
is more
Like
efficient
what?
if we're just trying to get information across. But if we're trying to connect emotionally, it's not actually very good. And in particular, I often talk about how social media today started, if you go back in time, is, oh, wow, this is great. I can connect with my cousin I haven't seen in a while and this high school friend I haven't seen in a while and find out what they're doing. Social media today is actually kind of antisocial. I think you're the one who said it's actually not social at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's social. The social media companies today are way closer to entertainment companies or content companies. And I might actually even go as far as to say like gaming understands social way better.
Yeah.
And that's my own experience. Maybe I'm biased of just as playing games. But it is interesting where Twitch fits into that, because Twitch fills this really unique void of the synchronous element that you're talking about.
Well, let's do this. Before jumping into Twitch, because you talked about one of the interesting things between Blake and I, so I'm responsible for running
Why
Twitch,
is it lagging?
but Blake actually is the gamer of the two of us, and Blake also is the one that grew up actually using Twitch more so than me.
Yeah.
So why don't we, because I always find it interesting to, one of the things, I had a son who did a lot of gaming, and initially my old model of gaming was, it's a time
Bro,
sink
to
and
be
they're
honest,
spending all
just
that time
fix this
alone in the
problem.
room.
Like there's
But they actually aren't
there's
alone. So
like
talk
a
to me about
constant
what gaming was
frame
for
drops
you
and
as you grew up.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up.
Sometimes it buffers.
And the games I played were all on Xbox Live. It was like Halo and Call of Duty. I mean, I still play way too many games. I played a lot of League of Legends and Valorant and of the sort. But games for me, in a lot of ways, kept me out of trouble. And I know that sounds weird, but like as a kid, I was the guy who wanted to go and play video games on a Saturday night with my online friends instead of going out doing whatever my like real life friends were doing. And I was always like, I grew up on the internet in many ways, and I would say like actually most of, which is going to sound really insane when I say this, but like I learned how to communicate with others by like talking on Xbox Live, and which I learned what not to do mainly. But in many ways, like those were my friends, and I certainly viewed myself as like closer friends with them than anyone I knew in real life at that time. And so for me, it's always, because I grew up through this shift, when you see the investors or the big executives talking about this stuff, it's like I lived it. Like it was so clear that that's where this was going. And Twitch has always been a fun one as a viewer for me, because I would watch these people.
Twitch just
there were
fixed
creators
the
like Nate
like
or any of the sorts at that time, where I grew up just watching them.
manage the resource more
I felt like
efficiently,
I knew
because
them.
like
I would come home after school,
way
after,
they're
it'd be like
using
4
the
o'clock, and I'd
resources
just sit there and watch
by,
until whenever they got off.
for the
that's always been my experience. I still do that. I still watch it in tons of streamers.
for the live
so
streaming.
I mean,
it's
as
just
I always
so
see
bad.
it from afar is, and I saw this with my son, he gamed because he wanted to hang out with friends. And gaming is that searching for community. And interestingly, I'd rather my son hang out with his
Because of
friends
the
than sit and
usage
binge
and
watch
other things
some
are
random
just-
show on Netflix where he's sitting by himself. Because the foundation of living a happy life is being able to negotiate relationships, form bonds, and all that. So
yeah. I might even add there, like, I play League of Legends with my college roommates, and like we live pretty close to each other, but we rarely actually coordinate to get together every single day and or whatever, even weekly. But we play games almost every single night, just out of habit. And so that alone is like, games are the connective tissue of my friend group.
Right. Okay. So now, and I think it's always good. You talked some about, for you, what was the magic of Twitch, and then I'll talk some more abstractly about explaining to help some of y'all understand more, because some of y'all are familiar with it, but I don't think you really, probably many of you still, it's a little puzzling. Yeah. So talk to me about what Twitch was for you.
Yeah. I mean, Twitch, it's a product that's really hard to explain to someone who doesn't use it regularly, which I imagine is an interesting challenge for you as CEO, maybe when you're talking to brands or whoever. But as a user, like, you have to find a specific streamer that you really like. But once you find a streamer or creator that you like, you're there regularly. And I still, to this day, I sit and I moderate a couple streams, which is hilarious. But all of that is, I would almost say, it's like borderline trying to form status within that community. And moderating
honest,
is like
Twitch's
I would argue, like,
algorithm
they're the
is
true backbone of a lot
there's no
of stuff,
algorithm.
which is interesting. Like,
It's like
they're doing it for free,
at
or
least
they're doing
YouTube
it
has
out of just love for the
algorithm that,
community. And I've
AI
always
will recommend you
just
some
found, like, getting to know other
videos
people
for
in the
you,
community,
but
getting to know
Twitch
the
is
regulars.
just straight
I think
up
when
like
we were talking
just
offline, you would use like the bar
open the like
analogy
a
and
board
sort of,
or
I think
something
it's,
in real life
it
and
is
just
the
start from
regulars
there,
that
and
makes
it's
it so
just
special.
like a scratch,
And again, I've gotten to know a lot of these streamers, and they are just as genuine, but it's just very, it's cool to know that the relationship that I had even through chat is the same as it would be in real life.
Yeah. One of the things I often make the comparison with gaming and with Twitch with sports fandom. Most people don't think of it, but sports fandom is actually all about community too. It's all about shared affinity, and that's why you don't have, like, you watch something like gymnastics during the Olympics, because rah, America, and then so we're all together. But really it's, oh, I'm a Bears fan, no, I'm a Patriots fan, no, I'm a this. And it's all about giving an excuse for us to hang out together and do stuff together. And the interesting thing, I think that is the same thing that brings people to Twitch, is they find a streamer that they like. One of the things that's so different is if you watch Twitch, if you watch TikTok over a week, you might watch 1,000 different creators. If you watch YouTube, you might watch 200 to 300. If you watch Twitch, you might watch 4 to 6. And what happens is the same people show up to see those same 4 to 6 streamers that you like, and you get to know them. And I often talk about how community and friendship all comes from lots of lightweight, shallow interactions that over time become deep, meaningful connections. And so people come and tell me stories about how they met their partner on Twitch. Nobody comes and tells me, oh, I met my future wife watching TikTok streams. Never heard that phrase, okay? But I've heard many times people saying, oh yeah, we were in a chat room or watching this, and then eventually we decided to get together and blah, 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 and now, and now we're married. And the other part that I try to help people understand is Twitch is something, from a viewer perspective, is we often just want to turn something on and relax, okay? And we want to be able to still be cleaning the kitchen, doing this, like checking our phone and all that. And Twitch is that for a younger generation. You can turn it on at any time. You can turn it off at any time. And here's key. There isn't a narrative arc that if you get distracted for a little bit of time, it's okay. It's kind of like when you used to turn on the Discover Channel, and it's cool, but if something happened because your kid had something or whatever, it's okay. And for teens and young adults, it's not by chance that Twitch rose at the same time as the phone, because they might get a text on Snap. And I'm watching Twitch, and then I can respond to Snap. But if you're playing a game, you're committed.
You bring up an interesting point, I guess. How do you think of games as maybe the background or foreground of the stream itself and the role that they play within this.
Yeah, that's what I've often said is people think of Twitch as a gaming platform. It's really always been a talk platform. People happen to be gaming while they're talking. For the streamer, it's actually hard, interesting. This is a good example. If I was going to come give a talk by myself, I would have had to prepare a lot more. But given that we were coming together, who can't sit and have a conversation for 30 minutes with someone they know about interesting? So you jot down a few points and you go on. And gaming gave something for me to be doing.
Yep.
But the reason people watched someone on Twitch was not because of how fast their thumbs moved. It's because they exposed who they were to that community. And they let people into their lives, and that created emotional connection. And interestingly, for many of them, they were uncomfortable if they didn't have the controller in their hands talking about things. But if they have the controller in their hands, then they can have all this conversation. And then eventually they learn to put the controller down. And that evolved into what's happening today, which Twitch is a lot more than gaming.
Yeah, it makes sense to me in that, if I had to talk to any of the people that I used to play Call of Duty with or Halo, I was just putting a voice chat with them without the game itself as forcing the conversation or something to keep the conversation moving, I would struggle mightily. And so that intuitively makes sense to me. It's very interesting because there's the whole why would you watch someone play games? Which is obviously, as you said, it evolved past games today, and it is talking. But even from that counter argument, it's the same reason why you would watch sports.
It's because everyone has different standards.
Right. Well, people often say, you're watching it because you want to get better at the game. How many people watch the NBA because they want to get better at playing basketball? Okay, I don't think there's a human being that watches the NBA to get better at playing babasketball. They don't watch somebody game. Some people do. How do I get here? But most of it is
some people will
they're
say
watching it because there's a narrative.
why
there's
do I
an
need to
interesting
watch the
dynamic
stream
in the
if
story.
it's going to be
But
uploaded
it's
on
not
YouTube?
just watching the gameplay.
But some people
it's
actually
my
don't have YouTube
conversation,
channel though.
It's my emoting, it's my expression, and that comes to one of the foundations, which I know I'd love to have you talk some about chat, because it is this thing that brings us together as viewers.
Yeah, I mean, chat is the magic of.
Because I personally
really,
think
you could say
if you are gonna do the stream on Twitch, then at least you need a YouTube channel, or
it's not the same. In large part,
you need a YouTube channel and you need to upload those videos
that's gifted subs,
into
that's
your
badges,
channel.
That's all these small things.
But not like
that
some
add up to be really the magic of what is
piece
what
of
is bad.
shit like
maybe to someone who has no idea
taking
what
a
Twitch
poop
is,
and they just
maybe we just talk about what gifted subscriptions are, or
well, actually, let's do this before you mentioned
spill it
emotes.
everywhere.
One of the things
It's
that
not
happens on Twitch
it's not
is
gonna
every
work
creator
like that. So I'm saying
creates a
you
set
should
of
not
emotes, right?
upload the
And
full
low-graph
VOD.
images. But what
You should
they really
upload some highlight clips.
extending the
And
language for that channel, because they
it
often
was
express some
always
emotion.
been
Joy, anger, laughter.
It was always
they're
been
expressing an emotion. And what happens is every channel creates their own language.
that method will
and the
work.
interesting thing
People
is,
would
this is like real-world communities. Real-world communities
We're
that have
saying
existed
that,
at
like,
different
over
times,
and over.
customize specialized languages,
small
cues, and other
streamers
things,
and
right?
those
And
people
so I start with
are
that
still
because
not listening
the interesting
to those.
thing about subscription
And it's like they're just
is that
shit post the full
a
VOD,
subscription isn't for
or
access to
maybe
content. A
we don't
subscription
know
is
what is the
patronage
highlight
to this
part.
creator.
Just
Okay, and by
taking a
giving you the
shit.
money, I get access to emotes so that I can speak. Basically, I can speak the language
and later
of
they
this
go
community because I can use
they
your
blame
emotes.
people about
And
or
over
maybe
2/3
YouTube
of the money that we make
why I'm
come
not
from
getting
subscriptions,
enough
not from
views.
ads.
Why do I
Which is
only have
interesting. And then
these
the
subscribers?
other part of that, which you
These
know
amount of
well, is this
subscribers, and
concept of a gift
It's
subscription.
because you did shit.
Which is, it started with a subscription, but then much more of our money comes because I might watch this streamer and I already subscribe, but then I might give him 10 gift subscriptions, which might be $60. But as opposed to me just giving him $60, It is, I am buying subscriptions for everyone else in the community, for 6 people. And so there's this sense, it's kind of like, suppose you have a tip jar, but whenever I put something in the tip jar of a street musician, everybody that's watching that street musician gets a little something.
Yep.
And that creates much more of a collective community experience.
Yeah, it's like buying drinks for people at a bar type of thing.
Yes.
And
yes, it's exactly like that.
And it's, on one hand, it makes total sense.
Or
when
like
you're in the
subscribing
community,
on
but
Twitch
as an
is really
outsider,
shit
you're
though.
like,
Like on
why would
YouTube, you
someone
can
wanna
just
give,
subscribe
because you're
without
saying $60.
hesitation,
I mean,
or
you see
maybe I
some
don't know.
people give hundreds
But
of
YouTube
subscriptions
Premium
to
is like
people
a-
monthly.
Yeah.
We're
Actually,
talking thousands
maybe
of dollars, and you're like, well, why would they possibly?
you will
want to do
find
that?
it more
And there's a whole bunch of probably reasons why they would do it, but
useful.
one of the
But
main reasons might actually
Twitch
just be like they
subscription
want to
is
go
like
and earn that
it's
status within the
for
community.
it's
And
only
they feel
for that
good when
one single
everybody
channel.
celebrates them, right? That's what.
So like
what-
there's
what
no
we're
like
yearning for
efficiency about it, and
is,
also like
this sense of belonging. One of the things we talk a lot
ads.
about
This is only for ads.
belonging, and we're yearning for acceptance. We're yearning for belonging with other people, and what you have is a community where then I get acknowledged and appreciated by that community when I give money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a perfect example of chat being a part of the content itself and impacting what is going on. And you see some streamers in just chatting or whatever the category might be, where they're just quite literally just sitting there reading chat, or someone's donating 100 gifted subs and they're just talking, sort of one-on-one, but not really one-on-one with that person in that exact moment, acknowledging them. And again, you wouldn't understand that if you don't use the platform, but it is. Community is just such a pure part of what makes it special. There are certain people, you have badges like VIP or whatever it might be to explicitly call out who are the important people in the chat or in the community.
Right. Well, one of the interesting things, and I know we were going to transition to this, and it occurs to me, you talked about people giving gift subs, right? Well, one of the things that I've been doing as CEO is I stream.
Yes.
And it's interesting, people come in and give me gift subs, even though they don't need to get, in fact, I donate the money to charity, but it always astounds me that, it's just such a behavior that they'll do it to me or someone will give me 10 gift subs.
Yeah. It's it's amazing. I mean, you just touched on it, but you've been the CEO for close to 2 years now.
Yeah.
Prior to that, you were at Twitch for 4 or so years. The 4 years prior, let's say before being the CEO, you were just an executive on the team. You become the CEO, and you're like, okay, I'm going to become a streamer now, DJ Clancy. What was that mindset like,
Yeah.
and how has that been? I have to imagine it's been really eye-opening to then be like, oh, I'm actually trying to grow an audience. Maybe you're not trying to be the biggest streamer, but you are, and you're feeling it. How's that been so far?
So it's really this interesting story that I always like to talk about, because I started because I said, okay, I'll stream just because I want to experience it and the technology and this and that, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I will tell you, I am not a DJ. I do play the piano and sing when I stream, okay? But it's funny because people will come up to me at times and say, oh, they know I'm the CEO, and they go, oh, I love your stream when you DJ. And I was like, okay, so I know you've never watched my stream. You're just trying to impress me. But I started doing it just to kind of learn it. But the reason I keep doing it is the same reason that most streamers don't do Twitch because that's how they fund their life. There are a lot that do fund their life. But it's because they get a sense of belonging from the streaming. And I kept streaming because I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the fact that I could show up, and while people may have first come to my channel because I'm CEO, they don't keep watching me because I'm CEO. They keep watching me because they think I have something interesting to say. I play songs that I like, and they like me expressing that. And it's kind of, we've often used this phrase, fame, love, money is what's motivating streamers. And fame isn't really being popular, it's about having an audience. And somebody's listening. We all want to be heard. And love is about that community then expressing their appreciation. And then some people get to money as a motivation. But for me, money is not a motivation. Is somebody listening? And have I affected them in their life? And it's helped me understand the platform and experience the platform very viscerally. And then it's also enabled me, because I'll spend a lot of time with streamers too, where I collaborate with them, where I do what's called IRL streaming. And I went on a tour of the Southeast where I met with a bunch of streamers. It was called Dan in the Van. I was driving around and I'd stream from the van, and then I'd meet with streamers. And it's made a huge difference, because for our community, the fact that I'm engaged with them really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's. I think you are the bridge to the corporate side, or the more back behind the scenes side of it. And I think it's really
it's like YouTube
fun
is
and
an
cool
early
you,
game,
took
and
this step to put
Twitch
yourself
is
in
like
their
a
shoes,
mid
but
game,
obviously you've also built a lot of relationships with these creators by going on that path.
Well, one of the things is undergrad, I interestingly was a computer science and theater major. We didn't go through, I said, don't read off a long resume. I find those boring. Everyone just shuts off. But, that was in undergrad, but eventually I went on and, did my technical stuff. I got a PhD in AI and computer science, blah, blah, blah. But I was always a creator. People often, one thing I believe is we put each
YouTube
other
has
in
also
boxes, and
changed
people
to
would
like
put me in a box as, oh, you're an engineer.
because before the
and it can be
update,
limiting,
they
but
were like
in a different world, I could have been a creator if I was born 30 years later.
Even if you
so many of these
didn't
Twitch
sign
creators,
in,
you find
you can see
they have
all of
theater
those videos
background, or
on
they
the
have
single page,
some
right?
other kind of
Maybe
unique
like
background
over 100.
that
But right now,
manifests them, because what
if you
Twitch
go
kind
there,
of is
if you go to
improvisational
YouTube
performance
website,
art.
then it shows you like,
It's
yeah, try to search to
every
get started.
creator has their own
Like
story and
what?
path, and
I don't like that.
I mean, I'm sure you see and live that every single day when you're like, how did you end up doing this, or how did you find this niche? Or
Like
whatever
just
it might
show me
be.
the
So
freaking
that
videos, and
resonates.
it's
I think maybe to take it in just a slightly different direction.
that's
obviously
where
brands
that's
are a
why I
huge
got
part
pissed
of
off by
what powers, let's say,
from
1/3 of
YouTube,
the
like,
businesses
just,
around.
I don't like the system.
Brands and
Just-
advertising. How do you think about brands in this whole world of media and social and all of that, or how should brands think about
What do you
that?
mean
And then,
try search to get
maybe just
started?
how does that tie into
Just
to
show
Twitch as
me the
well?
freaking
Yeah,
videos.
so first I'm going to do a quick diatribe to something that I believe if any of you are in the marketing, advertising, whatever, and you don't understand what's called System 1 and System 2 brain, you should understand it, because it's the foundation of what motivates so much of what we do. The System 1 brain, anyone asks you a question, your System 1 brain gives you an answer. And then our System 2 brain is our reasoning brain. So our System 1 brain is our gut, our emotions, our feelings, all that. And our System 2 brain is our reasoning and logic and all that. So if I asked you, do you like McDonald's or Burger King? Something pops into your head, right? And you get an answer right away. Now, all of the research shows that what our System 2 brain predominantly does is come up with a justification for the answer that our System 1 brain gave it. We think we are guided by our reasoning and logic. We think that is the foundation of being human, that we are reasoning and logical beings. We are not. The foundation is our emotions. There's actually this, another book that I've read, Social, Why Are We Wired to Connect? That talks about we developed our big brain to interact with other human beings, not to play chess. And then later on, we used it to play chess. And that emotional part of our brain actually governs the vast majority of how we act and what we do. And now I come from a tech background, and so tech people usually like to think that we're all reasoning and logic and it's all math and numbers, and it's not. Like when brands are trying to connect with an audience, what they're trying to do is get your System 1 brain to have a reaction when you say, should I buy Tide or all? You want your System 1 brain to give you that answer right away. And then your System 2 justifies it. Why do you like McDonald's more than Burger King? Oh, their fries are so much better. That's not the reason you like it. That's a rationalization. And when you're advertising, one reason people advertise on like premium sports is because they want someone when they are positively engaged. And that creates this transference of those positive feelings from whatever is the content they're watching to the brand. And you have a transference, and so what you're trying to do is develop that System 1 affection for your brand. And one of the things I often tell them about Twitch, is in Twitch, unlike other social media, people are not emotionally attached to whoever is flying across a TikTok stream. They laugh, they find it funny, but they're not emotionally engaged. When you have a Twitch stream in a community, you're emotionally engaged with that community, okay? And in fact, then a brand, you create that transference because I'm emotionally attached to you. There's an advertisement, there's something going on. You get a transference, and even though you may be a small streamer, could be a big streamer, could be a small streamer, it's not about premium content versus UGC. It's about how much emotional attachment and attention is someone giving to this content, and how can I get transference of that to the brand in the association. So that's why we often see these results where the type of results we get are because of that positive association and the fact that this brand is supporting this streamer. And I have a connection not just with the streamer, but with the community, that now that's gonna help in terms of create that positive association.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a Twitch as a viewing experience, or as a viewer, you're often going there for an extended duration. At least for me, my intent when I click into a stream is like, I'm going to be there hanging out with that community and with those people, which is very different than to like fly through or watch for 5 minutes because they grabbed me on an Instagram Live or whatever that might be. And so, yeah, that resonates deeply with me.
Yeah, and I'll go back since the clock's ticking, so we're almost, and I'll go ahead and wrap it up by saying the one thing I've realized when we think of products and features on Twitch, because I don't think we've always understood the importance of this. So sometimes when we build features, and if there are features that are just about a one-to-one relationship between the streamer and a creator, they may work okay, but they often don't take off. The features that take off that all have some communal interaction. So like when we did polls, that suddenly was popular because we're all doing it. We have this feature called Stream Together where people can knock and hang out with each other, basically for streamers to collaborate. And when we added that when we get together, me streaming, you streaming, all on one stream that's impromptu, and we combine chat, suddenly it took off. And I think it goes back to what we knew, but you forget sometimes, that the foundation of what makes Twitch work is our basic need for communal engagement with other people. And whenever you see all these new technologies and all that, for me, the question I always ask is, if that technology is going to help me in my basic human need to connect with other people, that is very powerful. The other ones will still be useful, but the thing that really is going to make a difference is something that meets that basic human needs, which is we all want to belong, we all want to be accepted, we all want to be part of a community.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, so thank you for doing this.
All right, thanks for being here, appreciate it.
All right.